Here are 3 interesting day trips that make it worth your while to leave the city limits of Merida. Each one is about an hour away and well worth the trip. There's Santa Barbara with its beautiful and accessible cenotes. There's the yellow city of Izamal with its Mayan pyramids and fantastic monastery. And there's the plantation Sotuta de Peon, where you witness the history of henequen firsthand. For centuries, the dry plains of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula were home to a humble plant, henequen, a wild agave with tough, fibrous leaves. Henequen was long used by Maya weavers for cordage. But in the late 19th century, as the world's trade routes expanded, henequen's long, strong fibers became a prized global commodity. Rat-proof, rot-proof, and astonishingly durable, henequen rope and twine were ideal for the age of sail and steam, used for baling cotton, rigging ships, and hauling cargo. At the height of the boom, henequen made Merida one of the richest cities in the world. The city's grand boulevards, elegant theaters, and gilded mansions were financed by fiber fortunes, and it is said that at one point, Merida was home to more millionaires than any other city on Earth. That golden age was not to last. The advent of cheaper synthetic fibers like nylon drove the industry into steep decline. Located about 45 minutes outside Merida, Hacienda Sotuta de Peon was one of those plantations that lay silent for decades after the industry collapsed in the mid-20th century. But it has been painstakingly restored to life as one of the few living haciendas where history isn't just remembered, it's re-experienced. Now, I've always said that photography has no past tense, and so I'm a huge fan of living history museums, where you can see firsthand what life was like. This tour takes you step by step through the story of henequen. You're carted through the fields where the plants were harvested, and then back to the century-old machinery that stripped, spun, and twisted fiber into rope and twine. Processes you can see and hear in action as a guide explains each stage. When you consider how easily modern appliances and machinery break down and become quickly outmoded, it's amazing that this steampunk Victoriana stuff still does the job. You'll walk through the grounds and the main house itself to get a first-hand idea of the genteel lifestyle of the plantation owners. Later, you'll also see a recreated workers' house called Casa Maya, where the staff workers lived a much more simple lifestyle. At Cenotes, Santa Barbara, Visitors explore several different cenotes. Guests ride aboard small carts pulled along a narrow gauge rail, a simple track that winds through the forest and was once used for henequen transport, now carries travelers from one swimming hole to the next. Each cenote has its own character. Cenote Chaxikin is a cave cenote. You walk down a long ramp with painted walls and enter through a small opening that leads down into a cool, shadowy chamber. There's a small opening that lets in some light from the surface.
We're here at Santa Barbara Cenote, and as you can see, it's drop dead gorgeous. Water's nice and warm, clean, and I'm here with a fairly big crowd, but you don't feel crowded at all. It's really quite an otherworldly experience.
You can easily walk between the cenotes. There's no need to wait for the train. And Cenote Xox is partly enclosed, where sunlight filters through a circular opening above. You can see the roots from trees hanging down from the surface. And Cenote Pool Kokom is completely open to the sky. It's clear water framed by jungle and limestone. It's probably the only cenote in the Yucatan that has its own elevator. Together, these cenotes offer 3 different windows into the same hidden world, the underground, freshwater rivers that have sustained life in the Yucatan for thousands of years.
The Santa Barbara Cenotes is a highly recommended stop, where even old guys like me can play out our Indiana Jones fantasies.
Welcome to Izamal. It started as a sacred Maya center, and in fact, 5 of those large pyramids can be seen in the backyards and open fields of the town to this very day. On one of them, they built this, the San Antonio de Padua Monastery. It's huge and imposing, with a courtyard so large, it's said to rival the one in the Vatican. And finally, let's talk about the paint job. Almost every building is painted a bright yellow. Now, nobody's really sure why, if it's for religious or cultural reasons, or to commemorate a visit by the Pope in the early 90s. But one thing is for certain, it makes Izamal unmistakable from anywhere else. Long before the Spanish arrived in the Yucatan, this was already a sacred city. The Maya called it Izamal, and for centuries it was an important religious center, filled with temples rising above the surrounding forest. In the 1800s, archaeologists uncovered one of the site's great mysteries, the colossal head of Izamal, a massive carved stone face believed to represent a Mayan ruler or god. The sculpture later disappeared, its whereabouts still uncertain, leaving behind one more unanswered question about the city's mythical past. Even today, those ancient pyramids are not hidden away in the jungle. They sit right inside the modern city, woven into its streets and neighborhoods. Dominating it all is the Great Pyramid of Kanish-Kak-Mu, one of the largest ancient structures in all of Mesoamerica. Built to honor the Mayan sun god, its vast platform still towers over Izamal, a reminder that this quiet colonial town was once one of the great ceremonial cities of the Mayan world. If photography is more your thing than history, Golden Hour in the Golden City is just an unending parade of eye candy. As Golden Hour segued into Blue Hour, we weren't quite ready to leave yet. And it was the sound of hoofbeats that gave us an idea for the perfect way to end our visit to Izamal, the Golden City.